Okay, so a quick look at the Tracks REST API. I'm going to have a look at the Tracks application. I've downloaded it from Bitnami. It's running in a virtual machine on my main machine. So I've got it running locally in IP address 192.168.126.129. So when I visit that in the browser, I can then log in. Then in Bitnami itself, there's a link to the REST API documentation. This is important because this is what we're going to use next to figure out how to access this application. And what we're going to do is, to start with, is we're going to use curl. But what we probably want to do first is learn a little bit about REST. So REST basically just means sending HTTP requests to an application, and it uses the verbs to do different things. So if I issue a GET request, this is quite in detail, if I issue a GET request on a particular URL, I expect to get some information back. If I issue a delete request, I'm expecting to delete information from the system. Same with POST to create data and PUT to amend data. But hopefully all of this is explained on the REST API documentation itself. So I can see here there's an example. It says if I do a GET on the context.xml, then I should receive a list of contexts back. And we can see the request. So I need to install curl. If you haven't installed curl, go off and, for your particular machine, figure out how to install curl on your operating system. So here I do have curl installed. I know that because I type in curl and it tells me what we've got working. So I can copy and paste examples on the website here. So if I take this whole thing, copy paste it into my command line, it should work. Yes? Let me move this down here so it's the same, we can see it. So I paste that in and it says could not resolve host. And that's because these examples are actually for Mac or Linux. This is the line continuation character, and it's different on Windows. On Windows, it's a hat. So if I do this instead, paste that in, do a little hat, it says more, so then I can enter more commands. And then it says login unsuccessful. It's made the request, but I haven't got the username and password right. So what I need to do then is issue that request with username that we logged in with, which was user. Password was Bitnami because I'm using the default username and password. Got the continuation character, it says more. Then it's returned the XML for the list of contexts in the system. I've just issued a REST request to the system in its API using curl. And if you work through the documentation here, there's a whole bunch of examples on what to do. The only things you have to be aware of are username and password are going to be different from your application. The continuation character might be different. Now I don't have to use the continuation character. I could just copy this. I could just take the whole line like this. That's got my take off the hat symbol. So that's essentially the first line is in there. I could do all of this on one line. Then I don't need the continuation characters. Now very often when I'm working with curl or working with an API in this way, what I'll do is I will have a record of what I'm doing. So I might avoid the continuation characters simply by working in Notepad first. That way I can get my requests ready here. I can copy and paste between them if I want to. I can even capture the requests, put them in here. Now I might use PowerShell because it's got better copy and paste facilities in here, but I'll keep a record of what works, what doesn't in a notepad. Generally I'll use Evernote rather than Notepad, but we don't have to type everything in the command line all the time. A lot of the time what you're going to find with these different requests is that this top line is going to be the same. So I might want to copy paste this, then take the next one, stick it afterwards, try that. I'm not even sure if I've got a 51 in here. Let me try. Nope. So it said not found, context 51. I do know that I've got a context 838 though, because that's in the list there. So if I do 838, there we go. cURL isn't hard to install. The instructions are on the website. You go look them up, start following through the API documentation and experimenting with the Tracks API that way. That's just a quick overview. There's a lot more to it than that. You could be going through a proxy. There's different commands to turn. You get a feel for the REST API codes by looking in the REST documentation. But for this particular video, start experimenting with the API, then do your research afterwards to get a feel for what you just don't understand, then go look it up.